Hello YouTube, this is Shirley426 and today we have the review of the 30mm Michelin Alto Flight unit, and it's in the navy colors. Now ever since I started reviewing the first 30mm mission kit that I reviewed, which was the ground unit, I got hooked up to them, and ever since I've been reviewing them, constantly. So this is based on the Alto unit, which I have reviewed, and while there are some changes in certain areas, the articulation is pretty much the same, so I won't be going over articulation too much. I'll be mostly going on the legs because the only changes were on the legs. Alright, so as you can see, as the name implies, this is the Earth Force unit, and then this is actually more focused on flying. So I actually do like this color scheme, and I believe among the community, this is actually a pretty a fan favorite because of the amount of equipment you get and the overall design. Now there is another version out there if you want to get one. Now this is the pure navy color, and there's another one that's a mixed color version, which is a mix between white and orange. So if you think this color scheme is a little bit too boring, maybe you can get that one as well. Alright, so before we start the review, let's go over some components. So first of all, what you get, of course, is obviously the Alto unit itself, and then in its flight form as well. So we get all the backpack and weapons, since everything is pretty much attached to the unit. There are some parts, there are some other stuff out there. So here are the stuff. So number one, we get these parts. Now if you're going, sorry about that. So then we have these parts. Now these aren't really used in this form. Now if you want to use them, you can always use them as well. You can pretty much slap these on to any part that is compatible. But there is another form that is mentioned in the manual, and that is where this part will go into. So I'll be showing you guys that later. I won't be showing the process. I'll be showing pretty much the results. And then we still get your typical Roy unit. Now I believe on my past reviews you are able to attach this on. You can replace the head with this part, but in this case, it's also mentioned in the manual where you can actually store the Roy unit onto the back waist section right over here, because there's a peg there and you can plug it in, so while you can practically carry this unit around while he's flying. So that's actually a pretty nice detail if you ask me. So that's that. And I do know there are certain people out there who are really into these small type of drones, so I think 30mm Mission is doing a really good job. And then we have these two parts. Now these are pretty much handles. So currently on the backpack we have those two cannons. Oops. We have these two cannons on the backpack, and if you don't want them on the backpack and actually want to use them as just regular rifles, you can take those parts out and attach these handles and then use them as normal guns. All right, and then here we have a small sticker sheet, a sticker decal sheet of numbers, large numbers and smaller numbers in black and white colors. And then here we have these parts as leftover parts. Now these are supposed to be the connection points for the ankle guards. Since we don't use these because we use a different type of feet, we don't use them. And other than that, here is a whole plate of leftover parts. So they're mostly leftover parts for the original Alto unit. So let's go one by one. So number one, here is the original faceplate for the Alto unit, and then let's see. And here we have all the parts. So these are the original legs of the lower legs of the Alto unit, and here we have the original feet parts for the Alto unit, and then the knee armor. So if you do want to just make a navy blue color Alto unit, you can always do that as well. Alright, so now let's get on to the review. So as mentioned, I'm not going to go over the articulation entirely. I'm going to go through the legs only, because those were pretty much the changes. And for now, I'm going to take off the backpack just to show you guys how well it works in terms of the moving parts. So the parts that has been changed compared to the original is number one, the knee armor. So the knee armor is supposed to be a much smaller one. They changed it to a much more larger one. The articulation is pretty much the same. You have a nice double jointed bend going on here, still using the C-clip type joints. We have a nice side swivel going on here, and then you still have the part where you can reposition the main joint here, so you can move them if you want to do so. Well, of course it does get in the way in terms of posing, but still it's good to know that you have like an option to where to position the main legs, and you can go back that much. And the feet. Now, despite how this looks like, this is the only bending point on the legs. There's no more moving points on the legs. There's a lot of these wings, and then the feet are pretty much connected to ball joints. Now, I'm not a big fan of these type of feet, so I might in the long run just swap it out with the original feet, because yeah, I'd rather have some flat feet going on here. And since it is on the ball joint, you can rotate the feet if you want to do so. And we have a nice pivot thanks to the another connection point here, which allows you to move sideways. Alright, so other than that, not in terms of articulation, but another part that has been changed is number one, the chest. So if we were to make the original Alto unit, we would have a very basic looking chest piece, but since now this is the flight unit, we get this part. Oops, that was close. Now do be careful when you're trying to pull this out, because I almost pressed on to these small wings, and that might have actually made stress marks or snap it off. So yeah, it just pretty much clicks into place, or not exactly clicks, it just plugs into place, but sometimes it may feel a little bit loose. So I don't know, if you want this to be permanent on there, just you can glue them on. And then the faceplate, instead of having the typical flat Alto faceplate, we get a nice helmet looking style faceplate, and it looks amazing. Definitely loving the design. And then the inside, the green visor is a nice touch going on here. Other than that, everything is pretty much the same. The main body itself, other than the chest piece, is pretty much the same. The shoulder armors, the arms are exactly the same. Even the side armor is the same. So not much changes when you think about it. So they really wanted to minimize like too many different parts, but also trying to make it look very different from the original Alto unit. Now, let's look at the backpack. Now, the backpack can, depending on how you look at it, it may feel a little bit messy going on here. So here we have the backpack. So number one, here we have the connecting points. So you will pretty much connect it like this. So number one, the guns can move up and down like that. They do have side-to-side movement because they are on pegs. So as mentioned, you can take this one out. So this is the entire connecting of the rifle. So what you can do is basically you can pull this out and then swap it out with a piece right over here. Yeah, I believe this is the way how you go, and you have a normal rifle that actually just plugs into the hand with no problem as well. And this rifle looks really good as well. Alright, so let me just take this off just for the sake of convenience. So that's that. So the backpack is composed of basically one main part, there's another side part of here, and then there's another side part here. So it's composed of pretty much 5 parts going on here. So number one, these parts, obviously the middle is the main part, which doesn't really have any articulation, but does have the connecting point to the backpack. This part can move, pretty much rotate around. Now the only part that is not allowing it to rotate 360 is the lower part right over here. So this part is connected to this middle part, and the wings are connected to the end part here. So they are on also pegs, so you are able to go 360, and they have these another joint here, so you can move them up and down like that. You can fold them up, and the wings can expand like this. They can fold in and out. So that's a pretty good, nice detail. And we have these extra ports here, so if you want to attach some more weapons, that is also an option. So yeah, and this one also has a little bit trouble going 360 because of this lower part, but yeah, it still works. And then these parts on the lower section here also can move. They can also go 360, and then they can move forward and backward like this. And then there's another bending point right over here, which you may think it's a little bit odd, because the other alternative mode I was talking about is that you can actually use these parts and swap it out with the original lower legs here. So if you want to have it a full flight unit that is not capable of like walking around, you can do that. So yeah, so let me just reconnect this to the backpack and to the back, and there you go, you have the backpack connected, and honestly it looks good. And to be honest, I think it could have worked without this unit, but they wanted to add in more stuff, so which is why they did this. So we have the flight unit going on here. So the only part I should also mention is that below the backpack we also have these ports going on here. So if you have like a really tall action base, you can always use these ports to connect it. If you don't like connecting ports and action base to the lower waist section, because if you do, I usually tend to use the waist section right over here, but sometimes when you're trying to pose with the action base connected here, sometimes it does hinder the side articulation. Alright, so we've seen the basics. Now I'll be right back with its alternative mode. Okay, I'm back. So here is the alternative form. So The only changes is that number one, you take off that extra dangling booster thing from the backpack. You take it off and then you replace the lower leg with those parts. And then on these new lower legs, you attach these parts, which did not really have any use on the original form. So the only changes here are the legs. So there are some. So the articulation is pretty much the same. You still have the same bend point going on here, and then and we have another bending point here. So what changes is that instead of having regular feet, we get more boosters on these lower on the lower legs. So and then we have these parts that can clamp open up and close down to get that extra booster feeling going on here. So if you can, I'm not sure if you can plug in anything here, but if you can like add a small thruster effect part, that would be really cool. And because these small extra details, it does really give out that, you know, booster and flight unit vibe going on here. And since without those anything on the backpack, you do have much more freedom in moving parts if you want to do so. You see, even this part can go 360 and a lot more. And then you have no problems now holding the Roy unit on the backpack as well, or on the lower waist. Sorry about that. So now if you choose to go with this form, now there's one thing you should know, is that there are going to be some more leftover parts. So here are the leftover parts that you should be getting. So number one, we get the leftovers as original leftover parts for the original leg area. So once again, if you do want to, so for some reason, attach these to the same way onto the backpack, you can do that, but it won't look that great, I'm gonna be honest. So that's that. And since we are using those new leg units, we will have these as leftover parts. These were the main connectors that were holding those legs onto the backpack. So you clip onto the booster legs onto this, and then you use this peg to connect it onto the backpack. So that we have some leftovers of those. And obviously, since I'm holding the rifles in the hand, so we do not use these connector points as well. Of course, if you just want to leave these on the backpack, you can use that. You can do that, but it will seem a little bit awkward going on here. And that's pretty much it for the review. So once again, I'm just showing only these basic examples that are mentioned in the manual. Now these being 30-minute mission kits, there are so many combinations you can do. Even the manual does mention that if you buy certain more parts, you can make like new units. You can make new units or any new combination that you want to do so. So it's really up to you. And once again, every time if I show every possible combination, it's going to take a long time. Now, so far, I have reviewed a good amount of the new units, the Battalion Forces with the Sengoku type, the Ninja type of the Spinaccio, and then I have reviewed a good amount of the base Alto, the ground unit, and then we have the flight unit. Now, I guess at this point, we can go for the Porta Nova unit lineup, or I could wait until we get the new Earth Force unit, which is more that seems to be more taller and seems to be more that could transform into a jet form or something like that. So I am also waiting for that as well. Anyway, this was the review of the Alto Flight unit, navy blue colors. If you guys got any questions or requests, in comment below. I still have more stuff to buy and build and make reviews out, so please stay tuned. Until then, see you guys next time.